Meeting of 2024. I'm joining you virtually this evening. I picked up a bit of a bug over the holidays, and just to be on the safe side, I thought I would remote in virtually. I will tell you that we are audio, video recording, and live streaming tonight's meeting, and it shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance with the town's retention bylaw. And for more information, you can contact the clerk's office for that. I'll now turn the chairing of the meeting over to the deputy mayor. It's much too difficult virtually to see everyone's hands. So Deputy Mayor, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship. We're going right directly into open forum. Land acknowledgement, apologies. That will be read by Councillor Richardson today.
Thank you. The town of Innisfil acknowledges the town of Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that this land is in the traditional territories of the First Peoples of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe peoples of Beausoleil First Nation, Chippewas of Rama First Nation, and Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. We thank them for their generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the four sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you, Councillor Richardson. Now we're going into open forum. As it stands, we have nobody who has signed up for it currently, so then we're going to move directly into the approval of the agenda. So we need a mover and a seconder to see about that. Councillor Constantine and Councillor Drodge. Mr. Clerk, I believe we have an amendment to the agenda, an addition, do we not? It'll be, okay, we'll be addressing that a little later. Item F2 has been added, I believe it is. It's
Mr. Chair, with the resolution on the floor, has the item F2 to be added as an additional item with a 2/3 majority vote.
all right. We need to vote in favor of that. So we got a mover and a seconder. All in favor? All right. Mayor Dolan, perfect. Thank you. Carried. So that will be added to the agenda under F2. All right. Does anybody have any particular disclosures of interest they'd like to bring up? No? Perfect. We have no presentations or petitions at this moment in time. We do, however, have a delegation from town staff regarding the stormwater management master plan and flooding strategy. So by all means, Ms. Cotillo.
Good evening, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, and the public. We're very excited today to be presenting to you our stormwater management master plan and, for the first time ever, flooding strategy. So this has been a process which has taken several years to get here, involved many staff, and of course our consultants as well. So grateful to all of those people, and I think you'll find this quite interesting. Got to turn that on, apparently. All right, so we've had a stormwater management master plan for quite a while, as long ago as 2012. Our most recent update was in 2016. But this is the first time we've had a flooding strategy. As council is well aware, flood events occur in Innisfil regularly, and with climate change, they do appear to be getting more and more serious and more common over time. Recent example I think everybody's familiar with was the rain event we had in June of this year. We had 30 locations where complaints were received from the public over a single day. Staff were able to attend 10 of those. So we weren't even able to attend all of the sites that were affected. Some of these were locations where we already had works planned and where flooding was a normal occurrence, and some, as I think everybody is aware, were not. So our new stormwater management master plan and flooding strategy provides actionable, sustainable, and effective solutions to stormwater and flooding. And the intention is that, like with all master plans, this will function as a living document with our recommendations reviewed, updated, and adjusted as we get new information and new perspectives. So I'm going to pass it on to our consultants. Mr. Denick will tell us about the study purpose and background.
Thank you very much. I know you've been briefed previously on this, so just a very quick overview of the study purpose and some background. So starting with the study problem, so we have existing land use and proposed land use that will result in environmental challenges, such as flooding, but as well as erosion, water quality, degradation, and changes to the water balance. And so for the purpose of the study is to develop a long-term planning document following an EA process. And as we've mentioned, there's two components to this. There's the Stormwater Management Master Plan and the first ever flood study for the town. So just to delve a little bit deeper, in terms of some of the background, the Stormwater Management Master Plan is a Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority requirement, as Carolina mentioned, 2012 and 2016, but it also needs to be updated for a few other reasons, including compliance with the new Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, CLI ECA approval process. Obviously, it needs to account for changes since 2016, and there are projects that need to be reprioritized within that. And finally, the master plan needed an update to support the growth, planning, asset management, as well as capital and operation and maintenance budgeting purposes. The flood strategy itself, the second component, we know that there's increase in flooding, and that includes due to climate change issues, and there are many creeks that flow through the town of Innisfil, and they are in close proximity to private property and in confined areas, and this leads to flooding concerns. So the study addresses both of those. So to jump right into the recommendations from the stormwater management side of the study, we have, we're going to overview these in kind of groups, the major elements, and so the first one being the pollution prevention, operation, and maintenance category. So here we've recommended the continuation of a number of initiatives that the town is already doing. So this would include things like the cleaning and operation and maintenance of oil and grit separators, curb and gutter and catch basin maintenance, all the way down to CCTV inspections of the storm sewer network. Some of the new recommendations for the pollution prevention operation maintenance include the maintenance of litter traps, and you see a photo of that on the bottom right. And those were installed as part of the Coral Woods retrofit pilot project, and then as well the maintenance of low impact development practices that have been established within the town as well. So two new recommendations from that perspective, but generally continuing with existing practices. From a source control perspective, this is what we're doing or what will be done on individual private properties. So these fall outside the Class EA process, but the recommendations here are to develop a low impact development policy for the town. This would include an approvals process for private property low impact development practices, as well as a tracking system for both private and public infrastructure as part of an asset management framework. And then as well to develop protocols to help the town properly oversee those LID features and implement best management practices. Moving to conveyance controls, a part of this, we have several categories. The first one being expanded annual ditch cleanouts. So the recommendations are for 5 kilometers of urban cleanouts. These would be cleaned out on a complaint basis, on a per year basis, and 5 kilometers of cleanouts on the rural cross sections. And this has all been detailed within the master plan as to where these would be prioritized and in what order. In terms of storm sewer capacity, the recommendation here is for the next iteration of the master plan that a storm sewer model be developed to look at capacities within the existing stormwater infrastructure. And in terms of low impact development for the conveyance controls, this would be the LIDs within the right of way themselves. So here we're recommending some updated guidelines, again, that installation tracking, and then of course, operation maintenance programs to maintain those going forward. Stormwater management facilities is a very large category. It represents some of the largest asset categories within any municipality, including the town. So we start with future studies. This includes a level of service analysis for existing quality or quantity control facilities, looking at flood storage of those existing facilities and ensuring that they are meeting the level of service that is required of them. Reverse engineering of some of the missing reports for the existing facilities is also recommended. And then the continuation of topographic and bathymetric surveys, which the town began in 2020, that those continue to better understand and prioritize which facilities need to be cleaned out and maintained. The sediment removal aspect, it is legislatively required that the stormwater facilities be cleaned out on a regular basis. And so that accumulation will periodically need to be removed. And the master plan identified 22 facilities that require sediment removal as part of the master plan, and those have been prioritized and put into the schedule as well. The third category for the existing stormwater management facilities are retrofits. We examined 38 facilities. 66% of those require some sort of an improvement or a retrofit. And we also recommended the conversion of existing dry ponds to wet ponds where possible. And you'll see an example of a dry pond to wet pond conversion on the right side of that presentation. And this will allow for the addition to that dry facility for not only flood control, but water quality and erosion control to be added to existing facilities, so optimizing existing facility function. Within the stormwater management category as well, there's also new facilities. So 33% of the town does not have water quality or quantity control. This is typically in older areas that were built prior to stormwater management and is quite honestly symptomatic of most municipalities in Ontario with older developments. So 3 facilities, one in Cookstown, Stroud, and Sandy Cove, were identified for new surface stormwater facilities to improve water quality. And there's an opportunity here for integration of these facilities within park features. These are approved Schedule B projects within the master plan and can proceed to construction. And on the photo there is one of the first conversions of a new stormwater management facility in the existing area. This is now 30 years old, but it is an integration of a stormwater facility within a park setting and is what is recommended for these 3 facilities. Doesn't want to advance. There we go. Thank you. Flood mitigation recommendations is the second component of the master plan. So that covered the stormwater management, and this is now the flood mitigation. So here I'll spend a little bit more time on this particular slide because there's a lot of information here, but in summary, there are 20 high-risk flood locations that were identified. If you look at the legend in the red hatched area, you can see those numbered 1 through 20 on the map. These were identified through background records, consultation with town staff, as well as through the community engagement process. We had neighborhood sessions and the community helped us to identify where these issues were. And so these are areas where we have flooded properties or buildings, areas with specific development interest, impassable roads or private access, and the frequency or impact of the flooding, so how often that flooding occurred, was also taken into account. I do want to point out a few important things on this figure. The bottom 4 items on that legend, we'll start with flooding issues due to lake level. These are areas where we have impacts due to lake levels themselves. And so these areas will continually be flooded due to those lake level effects. So this could be actually water flowing up ditch networks from the lake level. The second one down is the green. This are areas under the influence of Lake Simcoe. This is where the water backs up, or there's a backwater effect from the lake level itself. So while the culvert or outlet or watercourse may be above the lake levels actually cause the water to backwater up that system. And so we have flooding there as well. And then the last 2 categories are based on elevation. So the red is in the regulatory level. This is can be considered the high water level for Lake Simcoe, and the yellow being the normal water level. So as part of this study, at the beginning, new LiDAR, highly detailed LiDAR was flown for the entire municipality. And so these areas were redelineated as part of this study to better understand where the lake levels were affecting properties or land areas. And so there's very detailed mapping now prepared, and this is just a full summary of the municipality, but you can see in the bottom right-hand corner near Guildford, you can see where those hatched areas are, and they extend up the shoreline. And these are areas where technical solutions are not necessarily possible because we are dealing with the actual lake itself. So just to highlight that, a very important point. In terms of the municipal drain, recommendations, as I mentioned, we do have new LiDAR for the town, And so there were significant discrepancies identified for 2 existing municipal drains. So a new Section 28 report was recommended for the second concession drain and the South Innisfil Drain Branch B. As well, the 20 locations I showed previously all have technical solutions developed for them as part of the master plan. And to facilitate some of those works, there is a Section 4 petition required for the 8th Line Drain and the Hewitts Creek Drain. So they are existing municipal drains that would require amendment to implement the preferred solution. Through our consultants, K-Smart, they recommended that the town abandon the Prokipchuk drain and the Rolston drain, and of course, that the town continue the operation and maintenance of those existing drains that will be maintained into the future as a key piece of infrastructure. So other flood control works identified as part of the study. Again, a summary here. There's 116 culverts that require replacement. 111 of those due to capacity consideration, so they're under capacity, and 5 due to their condition. 80 culverts were not inspected, but are recommended to be further evaluated in the future. The town would continue their ongoing flood control operation and maintenance to manage the emergency flood response, as we saw in the June storm. And we've also recommended a private property drainage program. And this would be a supplemental program that would investigate and relieve drainage issues not caused by watercourses themselves, so within private property or road drainage issues. So a separate program to address these minor drainage issues on an ongoing basis. Some additional studies from the flood management perspective, monitoring of selected watercourses to further calibrate the visual HIMO model that was developed for the master plan, and then as well to complete a rain gauge study. So in the June event of last year, the rain gauge has identified only a 2-year storm, where we know from boots on the ground and input from the public as well as the town that the event was much larger. But that's because the event missed the rain gauges because of the density of the existing rain gauges. So there's a recommendation there to do a study and strategically place additional rain gauges to capture those microbursts. Also to complete those local drainage studies and as well complete a shoreline flood mitigation plan for mitigation of those flood risks associated with Lake Simcoe that I highlighted previously, to determine how to better manage those going into the future. There are a number of implementation considerations as well. So from a policy side, we are recommending a work on private property policy. So this would ensure that the town has continual access to any works on private property. So this would be either through a permanent easement or acquisition of the property. And this is to ensure that public dollars, when spent, that the town can then maintain those going forward. A cash in lieu study is recommended, and this would be for the payment of off-site stormwater management as a last resort if stormwater management could not be met on site. So this would allow for the transition or supplemental stormwater management off-site. A low-impact development policy, as I've mentioned. A tile drain study to determine any influence of tile drainage on flooding. Coordination with Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority in terms of the regulated areas, using the new LiDAR, as well as the flood risk mapping that was identified and developed for this project as well. And then to manage future development in flood risk areas, we recommended a screening protocol be used based on the findings of the flood study, the mapping that I showed, as well as the flood risk mapping for the watercourses for all new development, subdivisions, site plans, building permits, etc., so the town could use that mapping to screen those areas and essentially flag those. And two of the things that are recommended there, the first one being that if there is downstream flooding, the potential to over-control the upstream areas to prevent further flooding downstream, but as well to align those approvals with Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority in those regulated areas, as they have established flood policies as well as development requirements for properties that are within flood risk areas. And so to better coordinate those. And then finally, a general update of the development manual and bylaws to account for these additional recommendations in the master plan and flooding study. There is also a monitoring plan. It starts with the establishment of baseline monitoring, existing addition using 3 automated samplers. Eventually, the program would work up to 7 automated samplers and would be rotated across the different sub-watersheds within the municipality. And looking to also rotate 10 water level monitoring stations within the existing stormwater ponds. This has been aligned with the CLI ECA requirements from the Ministry of Environment and Conservation Parks, which is a requirement to have a monitoring program. And so we've merged those to have a comprehensive monitoring program that will serve all purposes. And then, of course, that would be merged or aligned with any other monitoring or compliance monitoring from other agencies that could be required from a permitting perspective. So to have one consolidated monitoring program for the municipality to address all of those concerns going forward. And of course, as always with all master plan, there is a budgetary implication here. And so we've broken out the stormwater management components, the flood mitigation, the implementation components that we talked about, policies, et cetera, as well as staffing. And so for an annualized cost of $12.6 million. And so with the current 2024 to 2026, is collecting about $3.5 million, which leaves about a $9 million deficit to implement the master plan over the period of 2024 to 2041. So one of the recommendations is to look at funding opportunities. So this could be grants, it could be a series of other projects or programs, but one to consider would be a stormwater fee study. So just to investigate as a future study, the possibility of collecting a stormwater fee or utility to make up that projected deficit. There are now approximately 48 municipalities in Canada that have a stormwater fee. There is 17 in Ontario, so this is becoming more and more common. The original stormwater fee developed by Kitchener has now been in for more than a decade. So this is something that we think would be worthwhile investigating further to help make up some of that funding deficit. And with this, I'll pass this to Carolina. Thank you.
So in terms of what comes next on this project, the master plan itself fulfills the first 2 phases of the municipal class environmental assessment study for all of the projects involved in it. So for many of our low impact projects, this plus public notification is all we need to do. So once everything gets approved and goes through the budgeting process, we can start on those projects. Some of the higher impact projects will require further environmental assessment studies. The closeout of the environmental assessment component does require a 30-day review period. So we're proposing that end 30 days from today on February 21st. And in order to facilitate that, the report is posted both on the town's Get Involved page, and there is a paper copy available upon request at the front desk here at Town Hall. I'm going to warn you, it is 3 binders about this thick. It is huge, but it is there if you want to see it on paper. So once the review period is over, there is the possibility that there may be revisions to the report. If any major changes occur, we will return to council to present those to you for readoption. Once that happens, we have the opportunity to incorporate all of this into our capital budget and 10-year plan, and that's our chance to get the opportunity to figure out how that's going to fit in with all the recommendations of all of our other master planning. So we will be prioritizing, aligning with other master plans, and as Chris said, eventually investigating other funding options, whether those are development charges or grants, and potentially a stormwater utility fee. We will be incorporating maintenance and sustainability recommendations into our operating budget, as well as the projects that go into the capital budget. And hopefully we will come back to you in future budgets with a program that reflects many of the improvements that are recommended by this plan. So with that, I'd like to thank you. And if there are any questions, we are happy to take them.
Thank you, Carolina. Hard work is always appreciated. We understand considering what floodplains in Lefroy and whatnot look like, what you're fighting. If any members of council have any questions, any thoughts? Alex? Oh, sorry, Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chair. The question I have is around the LID on private property. I know Innisfil has had some experience with subdivisions in the south end of Innisfil, and LID on private property didn't go very well. So I'm surprised that we're actually looking at this as opposed to a collective system of LID on community, in the community as opposed to private property. So, because these are things we can't control, and that if one person sells to another person, and that person doesn't like the LID measure, it gets ripped out. It's not something we can predict on. So I'm just kind of curious why we have that as an alternative in here. Thank you.
Through the chair. The previous provincial manual was written in 2003 by Aquifer Beach. The subsequent manual, which is now in draft and has been out for about 4 years, has not quite been finalized, was also written by us as well. But it really moves towards a full treatment train approach, which is source, conveyance, and end-of-pipe controls. Previously, the approach has always been end of pipe, and we've really left out as an industry, as a practice, the source conveyance controls. It's a very important part. It's also some of the most effective work that we can do is when we do it where the rain actually falls. There is concerns of how to maintain and ensure that those practices are functional on private property, and that's why we're recommending a tracking program and a protocol. Many municipalities, I will say, early days of LIDs have had some successes and some failures, but there are very good examples of how to ensure that LIDs are registered on title, have municipal oversight for inspection, maintenance, et cetera, through existing bylaws or amended bylaws. And so those are the type of things that the LID policy would look at, and there are very good examples in neighboring municipalities that could be brought to the town to help you manage those private property LIDs. But they are a very cost-effective way to manage stormwater versus at the end of the flow network or at the end of the development. So. And in general, both the Conservation Authority and the ministries are pushing and starting to require those on-site source controls. So this is an opportunity for the master plan to bring those into one document and one policy for the town to implement.
Thank you.
Any other concerns or ideas being brought forth? Councillor Constantine.
I just want to say I noticed that numerous First Nation community was consulted for this project. That was very commendable. And I would like to ask you, how was the reception from them?
Yeah, I mean, generally, they were receptive to receiving the information, but we actually received very little feedback. So no negative feedback, but very little in general. But they were grateful for us reaching out, and we did invite them to all the public consultations and to have conversations with the town, but they elected not to participate.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
We recently had some issues around in Innisfil Heights in the commercial area, and I'm just wondering, is there any process in here that will help deal with that particular problem we have there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Waters, yes, there is a recommendation for further study in that area that then will help support both improvements to the current situation and future development in Innisfil Heights.
Thank you.
I believe I saw Mayor Dolan. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, just a couple of questions if I could. First of all, a big thank you to Mr. Denich and the group at Aquifer Beach. I really appreciated the hands-on approach, particularly the hours and hours spent with residents, scouring over maps and listening to their very specific individual concerns on their property or on their road. And it was really nice to see. And I would ask maybe through you, Carolina, if at some point, I'm very interested in this private property piece that we're talking about. And, you know, perhaps after the review, and then maybe have a presentation just on that, where how people can access that or what they can learn from it and how that all works. A question similar to Councillor Waters was the LiDAR covered the entire town, so not just the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority area, but also the Nottawasaga watershed, because what we hear from particularly from the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority quite often is their mapping's out of date, their mapping's old, they need new mapping, and I'm wondering, is this something proprietary, or can we share it with the NVCA?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor. This is absolutely something that we can share. We did indeed cover the entire town, so there is information available for both conservation authorities. And on the other matter, we are, of course, at council's disposal and happy to present on any item that will be helpful.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Dinich, one other quick question, and that is to do with the lake level, which is federally regulated, as I understand it. I know I've talked to some colleagues over in Ramera and places that are also quite affected by the lake level, that they've tried to advocate to the federal government at certain times. And I wondered, has anybody had any success in that area?
Through the chair, I mean, and quite honestly, no. It is very difficult to petition the federal government. They are managing it from a navigable waters and recreation perspective, environmental perspective. They follow very specific guidelines. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to get them to change for a municipality or even a series of municipalities. So it is something that we're recommending. Again, knowledge is power. Knowing where those areas are. Part of the emergency response plan is to figure out what to do in those areas, and then as well develop policies for the future. I think that knowing where those issues are going to be and ensuring that the situation is not made worse, I think is the key to those areas. But also effective communication with the residents, that they understand that some of the flooding that they are seeing, it could be at the ditch at the end of the road, it could be on private property, it could be they're affecting their dock, et cetera. That there are effects from the lake that are causing those. So you get to live by the lake. There's a definite benefit, but there are some negatives as well. And that lake level can fluctuate significantly, as everyone in the town knows that lives on the lake or uses the lake. And it's more communication tool on how to communicate that, and then as well how to manage it going forward. So that's where those particular pieces fit into the master plan.
Thank you so much. And with the lenience from the chair, one last comment, if I could, and that's on the stormwater fee study. It's worked well in some municipalities and it's crashed and burned in others. Particularly, a good example for us would be the city of Barrie, when I think the mayor called it something about taxing rain or something, and they pulled away from it. And so I think a lot of it is in the way it's communicated, but definitely need to tread with caution on that item. And that's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, last call. Any questions? Any more thoughts? Okay, perfect. I need a mover and a seconder that the delegation regarding the stormwater management master plan and flooding strategy be received. Councillor Constantine and Councillor Waters. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. On to item 7, County Council, Municipal Associations, Conservation Authority Committees. Anybody have anything they wish to share recently? Okay. Oh, yes. Well, Councillor Richardson.
No worries. Our next library board meeting is actually next week, but we just had our fundraising library board meeting. And just to make sure everyone knows and is invited to our Spark event happening February 29th, to make sure you get your tickets.
Thank you, Councillor Constantine. Mayor Dolan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The AMO board met just before Christmas. We were successful in getting a 10-year renewal on the Canada Community Building Fund. You probably would recognize that better, called the Gas Tax Fund, which is federal funding, a formula of federal funding that we receive every year through AMO. And we are the first in the country to get our agreement signed due to our good working relationship with the federal government. So we're really pleased to have that. It's something that is predictable, and we know we're going to get it every year, and it becomes very valuable. And then also the social and economic prosperity review has started, and you might have gotten an email yesterday or today from AMO with the notes from the executive director that was made to the standing committee, looking at ways of balancing the fact that what is mandated through the province and what they're actually paying for, and the gap that is there because we're not getting enough funding from the province. And that is all I had.
Anybody else have anything they wish to add? Okay, that being the case, I'll take over and mention that yesterday at county, there was a lot of debate over the regional facilitation that's going along with the province at the moment. We had two votes. The first was a vote to support a recommendation that the warden make a submission to the Standing Committee on Heritage, Infrastructure and Cultural Policy that confirms the county's position on its role and services within the region. We're trying to defend the position that we have, that a two-tiered system is good, due to the fact that the county has 16 townships around, and we have a very diverse set of communities. And the second, we also endorsed a motion that we request that the province have another steering committee hearing that's held at the Simcoe County Administration Center as part of the formal review process, so that the county, along with the other 16 member municipalities and 2 separated cities, can consult and provide further input on the matter. So we're challenging the province to show them that we know what we're doing, and we're trying to do our best to make it a reality. That being said, if no one has anything else. Oh, yes, Mayor Dolan.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to let council know in case that we also made a written submission to the standing committee on the regional government review from the town of Innisfil's perspective.
Thank you kindly. That being said, we'll move on to the consent list. If anybody has anything they wish to pull, discuss, make a comment on, when we call it out, by all means, make me aware. So we're going for item A1, the adoption of the minutes of the council minutes dated December 13th, 2023. Item A2, special council meeting minutes dated December 20th, 23. Okay, the B1 summary report of the December 7th Innisfil Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. The summary report, B2, summary report of the December 12th Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. Okay, C1 staff report DSR 00124 South Simcoe Police Services 2024 cost sharing ratio and budget. I'm quite a bunch tonight. All right. Item C2 staff report DSR 00224 the 2024 final operating and capital budget. All right. Yes. Okay. All right. Item C3, the DSR 00324 Stormwater Management Master Plan Update and Flooding Strategy Highlights. C4, staff report DSSR 00424 Hughes Drain Improvements, Appointment of Engineer. Staff report DSSR 00524 Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application for 3476 Crescent Harbor Road. C6, staff report DSSR 00624 Killarney Beach Public School Water Lateral Servicing Costs. Okay, Mayor Dolan.
Thank you. Just a question, if I could. In the report, it talks about the different options and that only one of the 3 properties have so far identified which option they want. In subsequent reports, it talked about if over the next 2 years, there's still no response for the request, what option do we default to? Do we default to the one where it's put on their taxes over 10 years, or do we default to the one that the next property owner has to sign up if the property changes hands?
Through you to the mayor, yeah, we default to adding it, that it would be paid at the time of ownership change or connection.
Thank you.
Perfect. Moving forward, item D1, staff report for capital planning projects update. D2, planning development status report. D3, single source purchasing of EV pickup truck. Oh, Mayor Dolan.
Actually, I had my card up for D2, Deputy Mayor, and it was really just a comment to say what an amazing tool that report is, and I'm going to bookmark it and keep it right on my computer. It's so handy to be able to look to any development project and click on it and know where it is in the planning process. So I just wanted to thank staff very much for that. And actually for the capital planning projects update too. Being a planner during the last couple of years is not for the faint of heart, with all of the changing rules. It's like playing a baseball game, but having the rules change halfway through the game. And just amazed at the amount of work that was able to get done in spite of all of those massive changes in the planning world.
Thank you very much. Item E1, the bylaw to amend, the Corporation of Town of Innisfil to amend bylaw number 3123 to recover costs for the water lateral connection fee from existing property owners along Killarney Beach Road, Church Drive, and Pine Avenue. Okay. E2, a bylaw to the Corporation of Innisfil to exempt Block 356 registered plan 51M1209 in the Town of Innisfil, County of Simcoe, from the Planning Act. Item F1, correspondence from the Innisfil Idea Lab and Library dated December 19th, and additional information memorandum from the Manager of Legal and Clerk Services dated January 10th regarding the Churchill Library building. Okay, by all means, all right.
Through your chair, this is just a comment. I'm excited that we're finally going to do something with this property, so I support it completely in leasing it out. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Drudge. Item G1, the South Simcoe Police Board. Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you for keeping me on track. Item F2, the correspondence from Tollendale Village. Yes, Mayor Dolan, you wish to speak on it?
I'd like that pulled to committee of the whole, please.
Okay, done. All right. Item G1, South Simcoe Police Board meeting minutes. G2, proclamation for Tuesday on February 2nd, 2024. G3, proclamation Congenital Heart Disease Awareness Day on February 14th, 2024. G4, proclamation regarding Black History Month in February 2024. Okay, and that is it for the consent list. So we're going to move into committee of the whole, and I need a mover and a seconder, please. All right, Councillor Drudge, Councillor Constantine. The first item, I believe, was Councillor Waters. Oh, sorry, all in favor? Okay, so
Mr. Chair?
we need a mover and a seconder. We have.
Mr. Chair, we could just move back one. We have to approve the motion for the consent list recommendations.
Okay, I believe I did that. I was Councillor Drudge and Councillor Constantine.
No, we have to do the consent list. Oh, okay.
Okay, now we resolve to committee of the whole. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Zanella, Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? Perfect. Okay, so the first item was item C2. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Waters? Councillor Richardson, okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not wishing to change anything here. I just wanted a few details on part of the budget that's in there. My question has to do with the additional funds required for the park plan implementation of $4 million. So, because I think because of that, other projects like the tennis court is canceled. I'm not too sure if that's related to that. And also the trail program has also been canceled. So I'm not too sure whether those two are related to that increased budget. So my question is, can I get a few details of why the budget on that project has been raised by $4 million?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Waters. So that is the budget that was approved by Council in 2023 for the concept plan and the implementation that was brought forward. So that is the number that had been identified for the works that were approved by Council last year in the staff report.
Okay, I wasn't too sure whether or not that was above and beyond that.
No,
So,
it is for the works that were identified.
Right, okay, thank you very much.
All right, that being said, moving on to F2. Mayor Dolan, do you have a seconder? Councillor Drudge?
Thank you. Thank you for that. The recommendation is as attached on the screen, and I just wanted to speak to it if I could and thank council for letting this come on without notice. But there was a bit of a timing issue, and because we only have one meeting in January, so I don't know how much council is, the newer members of council maybe are aware of the Tollendale 2 project. Tollendale, the original Tollendale Village is on Hearst Drive in Barrie, and it's a very successful affordable seniors living complex. And the group wanted to duplicate that village and in Innisfil, but on the edge of Barrie. Their planning had a tough time approving it because of its location, right, not in a settlement area, and snuggled up next to the city of Barrie. But council really wanted to make it move forward, and we had certainly had busloads of seniors come to the public meeting who were also very excited about the project. So we were able to get a minister's zoning order so that the project could move forward. So now fast forward about 3 years, the work is getting done. They've had submissions. I think they're on their 3rd submission for site plan control with the town. And they're also working through what's probably a pretty complicated servicing arrangement between Tollendale, the city of Barrie, the town of Innisfil, and In-Services. And as you know, the provincial government is currently looking at and reviewing all MZOs with a kind of a use it or move it lens. And so this one has got captured in that because it's been, I guess in the province's eyes, not seen enough advancement. So I had the executive director and someone from the Tollendale Village Innisfil Campus Committee reach out and write to me asking if we would please consider an additional letter of support for this project to let the Minister Calandra know that the town does still support this project, and that we supported it because it was the last council that supported it. So I just wanted to bring it to council to make sure that council was okay with me, or actually staff is going to write something in to the province, letting them know that we are, through the Environmental Registry of Ontario, confirming our council support by the date at which Tollendale had asked us to send it in. So that's my request, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Worship. There's a few things I'd like to add to that. Just to give everyone a bit of perspective, when they brought this to the previous council, we had a lot of discussions. We had a tour of the Tollendale Village in Barrie. The one thing that made it so unanimous was the fact that If you take a look at it from an environmental perspective, they're increasing the environmentally protected lands within Innisfil. They're creating environmentally protected lands. If you're talking about seniors housing, there's 1,000+ people on a wait list that we can find homes for. When we're talking about employment for our youth, Georgian College works hand in hand with Tollendale. So when it comes down to it, they pick from them, like they give them first rights. Then on top of that, you're creating work inside of Innisfil. We have if I understand correctly, the water sewer is going to be coming in from Barrie to be connected. So there's not going to be an issue with providing piping through or altering the roads to that degree. This is a win-win-win situation. And the only thing it can do is help people. It helps our youth. It helps our businesses. It helps our seniors. So when we support this motion, we're actually supporting not just one aspect of the community, we're supporting the entire community. So this is something that I agree with the mayor, we fully have to throw our weight behind. All right, that being said.
Are you voting on the matter?
Yeah, all right, so we're going to take everything with all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Actually, Mr. Chair, if we can just procedurally just move back to item C2, we can also vote on that item, please?
Can we get a vote on C2 then? All right, all in favor? Perfect. Carried. Thank you. All right, now we move to the RISE recommendation. I need a mover and a seconder, please. All right, Councillor Constantine and Councillor Ices. All those in favor? Carried. All right, considering, yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we did all in favor. I did all in favor. All right, that's okay. Consideration to adopt the recommendations from Committee of the Whole. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Drudge, seconder. All right, Councillor Zanella. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. No notice of motions have been received. And announcements. So we will go through the wards and see what comes up. So first one up is Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Deputy. I don't have a lot to announce tonight. The one announcement I have is an exciting one, though. There's a new Sparks group for girls aged 5 and 6 that will be meeting Tuesday nights between 6:15 and 7:15 at St. James United Church in Stroud. So if you want to join this new exciting group, that's where you should go. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Constantine.
My announcement is it's Robbie Burns dinner at the Legion. That's January 20th, and the tickets are $30 and they are on sale. So you can contact Lori at 705-241-9635, and you can purchase your ticket through her.
Councillor Richardson.
Okay, so over at the Innisfil Idea Lab, next Friday on the 19th is the C.P. Walters Short Story Contest. Congratulations to all the short story writers in our community. As well, I actually got to take part last night, starting last night, every Tuesday night in the Hack Lab from 5 till 7 p.m. is a new program called Make It Family for ages 6 to 12 years old with your family. So the idea is that you're spending some time, quality time with the family. I got to make myself a little magnet last night, which was lots of fun. Happening over at Moon Cafe tomorrow night for their Trivia Thursdays, it's Lord of the Rings. So any Lord of the Ring fans, you should pop over. Next Saturday, the 20th, is their 1-year anniversary, so they've got all sorts of good things happening. And then on the 27th is a Mario Kart tournament, which sounds really like a lot of fun. And then lastly, not next Friday, but the 26th of January starts the 4th annual Innisfil event. Check out Connecting Innisfil for more details, but basically just to support all of our local Innisfil restaurants.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chair. To things happening in Ward 4. On January 19th is a kids' dance party, grades 3 to 7, and that goes from 6:45 to 9:45, and it has adults supervised at Alcona Glen. Then on January 26th is Euchre Night at Lions Hall, 7 p.m., $13 to play. Thank you.
Councillor Zanella.
Just a reminder, Lakeside Dance Studio, starting February 1st, is the next session for line dancing. And I think that is a 5-week course, so get your boots ready.
Councillor Saunders.
Thank you. I just have one thing that Friday Harbor is starting their skate escape, which is you get to skate around Friday Harbor and you can rent your skates there from 4 to 8 p.m. And other than that, it's a quiet month in the harbor.
Councillor Drudge.
Thank you, Chair. So February 6th, the Cookstown Branch Library is doing a sociable seniors craft event and paint pouring. And just like Councillor Richardson had mentioned, starting this Saturday in Cookstown, they're also doing the Make It Family event. And it'll be every other Saturday moving forward from there. And that is a free event.
Mayor Dolan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Been doing a lot of year in review interviews lately, so enjoying that reflection on the year that we've just had, which was, I believe, very, very successful. Many municipalities have a traditional levy in the new year. We've done that in the past, but I've found that it's not as much fun for the kids to come out to some things like that. So instead of doing a traditional levy, we're doing our winter weekends again this year. So the first one, the kickoff one, will be February 3rd at the Innisfil Rec Complex, where we'll have the council serving residents pancakes, and we ask you please to all come out and say hello to your local council. Then on February 10th, there's one at the town square, a winter fun event, and then I believe the one after that will be the polar bear plunge. So like every weekend in February, we have a fun event for all of our residents and council. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. Okay, I have some notes myself here. January 11th, we're having a flag raising for Crime Stoppers. It's always good. January 18th, we have an event at Town Hall, learning about local government info session. So if you're ever curious about what councillors do, what they're responsible for, how the wheels of democracy work, it's a good time to come in and sit and expand your horizons. January 20th, the Innisfil Historical Society at Knock Community School is going to have an event, possibly a meeting, January meeting. It's always good to come in, just shake a few hands and meet some people. January 27th, Indians in Innisfil is having a meet and greet in Stroud. I believe it's $10 a ticket for if you're over a certain age, but it's always good to come out and see how the community is growing and evolving. And that's all I have at this moment in time. Okay, so now we move to the confirming bylaw. I need a mover and a seconder, please. All right, Councillor Ices, Councillor Constantine, all those in favor? Carried. And lastly, adjournment. Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Drudge. All those in favor? And the meeting is adjourned at 8 p.m. tonight. Thank you, everybody.